They want you to be mad at me. All right, good morning and welcome to the Tuesday morning, July 26, 2022 edition of Sidelines. Rob Brown along with Jimmy Hodge, and we got a great show lined up today. We're going to start off with Kent Stevens, historian of the College Football Hall of Fame down in Atlanta. In the second segment, Doug Dean will weigh in from Birmingham with the AU Dose. Segment 3, top of the second hour, Rodney Orr, Tider Insider, will check in from Tuscaloosa. And in the fourth segment, Yancey Porter from the Square in Oxford, Mississippi, talking about Ole Miss. Bottom line, all of our guests can pivot, talk about their schools. Bottom line, this is a giant 2-hour session of all college football. Right now, that's what we are dialed in and focused on. We're here every Monday through Saturday, 8 to 10 a.m. Central, 9 to 11 a.m. east of the Chattahoochee. And if you miss us, go to 680thefan.com, the podcast park in Atlanta. Great folks over there, Chuck Oliver. And, you know, you are going to hear lots more college football after this show, 11 to 1, Monday through Friday with Chuck Oliver and Dan Matthews. Also, Fox 98.3 FM in Central Alabama, Birmingham, Montgomery, Lake Martin, everywhere in between. Fox 98.3 out of Sylacauga. And remember, follow us on Twitter at @sidelines_live. Also Instagram, YouTube, Facebook, and LinkedIn. We're live streaming now. Spread the word. You get to see us, and we're going to start bringing more of our guests on if they can figure out how to do it. It's pretty simple, and but it does take practice. It's like riding a bike, Kent. And I know the first time I was on it, my wife said, "Don't wear a green shirt; you'll be invisible with the green screen." So, reminds me when I was in TV, and the weatherman every now and then would wear the wrong color, and all of a sudden you would just where'd the weatherman go? But we're going to be talking a lot of college football, and want to say something also about our sponsors. We're broadcasting live from Red River Ford Toyota in Wynne, Arkansas. These are great folks over here, been with us for a long time. If you're looking to trade your car or truck or SUV in, the best trade-in value is probably in over 20 years. RedRiverFordToyota.com, Wynne, Arkansas. They deliver anywhere. Give them a chance. See what they can do for you. And, hey, Gateway Tire and Service Centers, they go the distance for the customers and the communities where they do business. Great folks to work with. Reforest, Mississippi. Get out, plant trees on your land, in town, in the medians, on the highways, wherever you live, and support the Boy Scouts of America. And also, I said it last week, Kent, we had Kimberly Bowden, the CEO of the College Football Hall of Fame in Atlanta, on the show. She was a fantastic guest. Really loves football. That's what I love about her. And she's very smart on the marketing end. But I said, everybody wants to take their kids to Disney World. That's great. But at some time in your life before you die, you will go through the Atlanta airport for a number of reasons. A flight, you missed a flight, changing flights, whatever. Spend the time to go to Atlanta and go to the College Football Hall of Fame. Jimmy's on here with us. Got that link here with us. Kent, being the historian for the College Football Hall of Fame, when I talked to you yesterday, you were telling me that you have been there since it was up in Kings Island, Ohio. So that's 30 plus years. And let's talk about what that journey's been like and what you do with the College Football Hall of Fame for people that have never been and will soon be going after this segment.
Well, as far as my journey goes, I think I don't really know what ever would have became of Kent Stevens if he didn't find the College Football Hall of Fame.
There you go.
Sort of struggled through most of my life, I think. And I went back to grad school in my mid-30s to Ohio State because I knew I wanted to work in sports of some sort and had to take sports history courses. And I thought everybody who was in sports management would just be a sports history nut like I was. And I had to take sports history courses, and I found out that I was really sort of the oddball, that I really knew all this stuff and I could relate it to American history because that was about the only subject I ever did well in school in.
Yeah.
And so they said, well, you shouldn't be in sports management. You should be in sports history. And I thought, well, what can I do with sports history? And fortunately, at that time, the College Football Hall of Fame was located in Kings Island, Ohio. And I'm a Cincinnatian. And so I still had my house in Cincinnati where I was going to grad school at Ohio State. And so I tried to get an internship there and was successful and started there in January of 1990. And then when I graduated in June, they hired me on and I've been there ever since. And we've moved from Kings Island. That facility closed at the end of 1992 and we reopened in South Bend, Indiana in August of 95. And then we closed there at the end of 2012 and we reopened here in 2014. So I'm the only person that has been at all three facilities.
Well, the College Football Hall of Fame, I go back to a conversation with Gary Stoken, who's been on our show a number of times, the CEO of the Chick-fil-A of the Chick-fil-A Peach Bowl. And he talked about how when he and Mal Moore went up to the College Football Hall of Fame in South Bend, they looked all around and they didn't see a single exhibit in there about Coach Bryant. And they came back and they met, and eventually the College Football Hall of Fame moved to Atlanta. I think it opened up in 2014. And it's just an awesome facility. And I don't know who did the site prep work on it, whatever, but I got to tell you, last week at the SEC Media Days, Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, it was a logistical masterpiece because you're talking about linking the South Tower, the North Tower of the Omni with the College Hall, and it was easy. The setup in the main room where the football field is and everything, it was first class. And everybody there, Ethan Warrior was a young man I met. He'll be a sophomore at Tennessee. He's related to Nigel Warrior, a really good football player that played at Tennessee from Creekside High School there in Fairburn, Georgia, right outside of Atlanta. But everybody there that works at the hall loves what they do, and they go out of their way to help you and make it a positive experience. It was a lot of fun. I really enjoyed it, and I got to tell you, man, I can't wait to get back. Probably be back in a couple of weeks. I'm going to go down and visit again. But everybody there makes you feel welcome. Tell people.
Well, thank you. I was very impressed with what our staff did as well. I I started, like I say, I was like the world's oldest intern when I started in 1990. I just turned 69 just recently, so I've been sort of going into semi-retirement, so to speak. And so I'm not really in tune as much as the everyday goings on at the Hall of Fame. I've sort of been brought into the mix lately because the most recent historian has left, and I'm sort of an in-between guy right now. But I was so much impressed with where our staff handled the entire organization, the entire setup, and And I think the SEC would be crazy not to come back here every year.
Yeah. Well, if you look at the way, I will say this, Hoover, they do a great job there. It's easy to park, but when you go to Atlanta, you're at the College Football Hall of Fame. The best thing about it is it puts a focus. It puts a focus on the College Football Hall of Fame, and that
Certainly
part,
does, yes.
that's what we love. And I mean, really, we love the game of college football, and you've got to grow it. And our theme on Sidelines, Kent, is history, tradition, and heroes. All right. And the more you know about college football history, the more you fall in love with the game. So talk about your role and how you bring people in, and some of the, I imagine the archives there at the hall are just off the charts cool.
Yeah, one of the things people kept asking me about was the archive, and I really haven't sat down there and actually crunched the numbers. But I always thought, when I first talked to somebody, I thought, well, maybe 2% of what we had is on display. And I started thinking a little bit deeper, and said, no, that's way too high. It's probably like about 0.5% of all the stuff that we have in the archive is on display at any one time. And so what we try to do is we have a large room we call the changing exhibit room, which we change 3 to 4 times a year. Presently, it's on the SEC, and each SEC team has a locker. It's a glass enclosed locker, and so put each school have artifacts in there, and then at the end of next month, we're going to change all that out, and we're going to have an exhibit on the most recent Hall of Fame induction class, which includes people like Champ Bailey, among others, and Var Arrington and Gary Pinkel and these type of people. There's 21 inductees, and we're going to have an exhibit on those people. So I'm presently gathering artifacts from those Hall of Famers to put on display. And then that'll run through the football season. And then in January, we'll come up with something else.
Yeah.
And I'm not exactly sure what that will be at this point, but we have done all sorts of numerous exhibits down through the years. And I say I've been doing this, for 30 some years, and we've had some really interesting displays. I remember one year when we were in South Bend, we did an exhibit on college football movies. There was a company in California called Sports Robe, and anytime they make any kind of a movie about football, basketball, baseball, and they have uniforms, they go to this company called Sports Robe. Yeah. So we got all sorts of uniforms from people like Robin Williams, and even had the jersey that Burt Lancaster wore and Jim Thorpe All-America. We had stuff from the Newt Rockne movie that was made in 1940. The other movie like Radio, and all these movies that were dealt with football. We had all these artifacts on. We even had the funniest piece we had. There was a Disney movie called Gus the Kicking Mule, and the mule wore these huge football pants, and so we even had the football pants that the mule wore in this movie. So we do all sorts of different types of exhibits all year long to try to keep the museum fresh and bring some of these artifacts that are stuck back in our archive out to the public. So
I heard only about 15% of what you have is at any moment in time is out there on the floor. So that,
well, I have to say, I think it's much less than that. I think it's less than 0.5%.
Wow. Less than 0.5%?
Yes.
Wow. Oh my gosh. That is so we haven't even scratched the surface, because every time I go, it's different. And I think that part of it right there, I mean, it's an interactive museum. So let's say you got a fan, Tennessee fan, LSU fan, Memphis fan. Every fan, when they go to the Hall of Fame, it's a personal experience, because once you type in and you give your email information, that badge that you carry around on you, when you go in front of those big screens, for me at least, it populated with a ton of Auburn stuff. I thought that was the whole museum was about Auburn until I figured out that's how it works.
Well, yesterday I had the daughter of Billy Jack Murphy came by to drop off the memorabilia of her father, who's going to be inducted into the College Football Hall of Fame, and she brought us all sorts of great stuff from Memphis.
Wow.
And so I took her through a tour of the museum, and she went to the fight song section, and she sang the Memphis fight song, and She got to see the Memphis helmet light up on the helmet wall, and did all these other aspects that pertain just to when she went to the Hall of Fame room. She got to see videos on Alan McKean, who was a Memphis coach back in the day,
Yeah.
and so she was able to customize her visit towards Memphis.
Yeah. I mean, I think that right there makes every fan when they go there feel special, because your school can be highlighted in the middle of all these great schools. And that's what makes this museum special, is that it's not a bunch of old newspaper clippings in glass cases that are decaying. It's interactive, and it takes the past and the present and the future and weaves it all together. It's incredible. Jimmy, jump in this conversation with Kent Stevens, head of the College Football Hall of Fame historian for the last 30 plus years, and hopefully for another 30 plus years.
Yeah, Kent. Well, I'm interested to see what you guys are planning in the future now that we have this reality of NIL and the transfer portal and all of that. Does that have anything to do with what you guys are putting together? Because a lot of these heavyweight programs, I mean, the most iconic in the history of the sport, are going to have massive roster changes in future years, almost on an annual basis. Or how do you see this college football world evolving as we sit right now?
Well, as a historian, I like to try to kind of, it's easier if you can divide history in sort of more bite-sized chunks, so to speak. And I've always maintained that, the very first game was in 1869. And that essentially was a soccer game. And then it evolved to a game that was more like rugby. And it really didn't become college football until about, we would recognize college football until 1882, when Walter Camp introduced the concept of downs and distances. And so I almost kind of feel that college football really began in 1882. The next major break came in 1906, when they legalized the forward pass, and they required you to have 7 men on the line of scrimmage. That's the next major change in college football. After that, I always divided at the 1964-1965 season, when we went to 2-platoon football permanently. It's almost two different games, really, from 1-platoon to 2-platoon football. Requirements of the skills of the players and the strategy and that sort of thing really vastly changed at that point. I think right now, with the transfer portal and the NIL, I'm ready to put another line in the sand and say we now have a new era in college football at the present time.
Well, the thing about it, Ken, is that in 10 years, what we're doing right now will already be history. So, we think about the NIL just being a year old, and now the transfer portal may be 3 years old. And before you know it, this will be for some of our younger fans, it will already be history.
Well, yeah, they'll be accustomed to the way it is, thinking that that's the way it should always be, so to speak. And I certainly change in this kind of sort of worries me a great deal to see how all this is going to transpire. And I'm moving now because someone is vacuuming the floor behind me. So I got to find another quiet spot to be. Excuse me. So yeah, I'm very concerned as how all this is going to break down. I'm certainly worried about some of the schools that might be left out into the dust. I certainly think we need to have more than 40 or 50 schools in college football. You read every day these different ideas as to who's going to go to what conference, and a lot of people think that the Pac-12 conference is going to disappear. And let's say it does. What's going to happen to schools like Washington State and Oregon State? Where are they going to end up?
Yeah.
If they end up like in the Mountain West Conference, their revenue sources will just be depleted to an extreme event. And I know Oregon State just tore down half of their football stadium. How are they going to pay for that? And with the UCLA, Southern California, and the Big Ten, how are they going to send the girls field hockey team to Rutgers to play on a Wednesday afternoon? I just there's so many questions out there. I don't even know how. I don't think anybody really knows how it's all going to play out. I think it's just happening way too fast without really any thought to the future.
Yeah, and that is a concern, and this is something one of our listeners, Yule Gibbons, get off the sidelines, get in the game, owns Audio Video Works in Athens, Alabama, and he said one of the cool things about the College Football Hall of Fame is when you go there, you can kick field goals, you can pass. They've got a football field set up on the inside, and I got to say, I took my son there about 7 years ago, and he was kicking field goals 25 and 30 yards through there, and you can really participate in the setup in there. It's very visitor friendly, and so you go back to the history part of it. The more people we've had it took a little bit of a dip, and all the advancements are being made and safety but football is a violent, it's physical, it's a brutal game. And you go back in the history, back in the early 1900s, we almost lost football. A Georgia football player died, and the Georgia governor and the state legislature were about to just get rid of football, and the player's mother came in and fought on his behalf and said he would never have wanted that. Talk about that moment in history and how far we've come and what the work we got to still do.
Well, that was in the 1905 season. This was before the forward pass was legal, and you didn't have to have 7 men in the line of scrimmage. So they would have plays where there was a coach at the University of Minnesota, Henry Williams, who devised a formation called the tackles back formation, where he would take his tackles off the line and he put them in the backfield, and they would act as lead blockers. And so at that point, you only needed 5 yards to gain a first down, and there was no forward passing. So basically, it was a game of mass momentum where you would find a weak spot in the other team's line, and you would take advantage of that position, because the substitution rules were also to the effect where if you left at a certain point in the first quarter, you could not come back into the game to the second quarter. So they would try to keep the players in there as long as they possible without having substitutions. So these guys would get brutalized and hurt, and there was no neutral zone at the line of scrimmage. And so it was basically a fist fight at the line of scrimmage, and guys were getting hurt and even killed. And so late into the 1905 season, a lot of colleges announced, we're not coming back for 1906. And so Teddy Roosevelt brought representatives, what at that time was known as the Big Three, Harvard, Princeton, and Yale, to the White House and said, you need to do something about this game or it'll just go away. I'm not going to ban it, but your schools and universities are going to just discontinue playing college football. And Teddy himself, his son was playing freshman football at Harvard, and he got a broken arm. And so Walter Camp, who was the father of American football, and the other representatives got together and came up with a whole set of rules. Meanwhile, the president of New York University, Henry McCracken, also formed a rules committee. And eventually the two rules committees merged, and they came up with the new rules. Now you needed 10 yards to gain a first down. Passing was legal. You had to have 7 men on the line of scrimmage. There was a neutral zone, so the game was safer. And the result of those meetings was the creation of an organization that became known as the NCAA.
Wow. I mean, that story right there. And you think about the first game, what, November 6th, 1869, Rutgers 6, Princeton 4, was that in Brunswick, New Brunswick, New Jersey, or is that correct?
Yes, it was on the Rutgers campus. Okay. That's correct.
Were there 25 players on each team, or is that
correct? So basically, essentially, it was a soccer game
or a rugby scrum.
I think is funny. The first game is two teams, 25 men each, and Rutgers wins, and then they go and they play in the next week at Princeton, and Princeton wins. So those are the only two games that were played in the 1869 season. So immediately you have the establishment of the home field advantage, and immediately you have the establishment of the fact that nobody knows who's number one because they both split. Tradition that's carried on for a long time in college football.
I mean, Jimmy, can you imagine 25 players on each side in the Iron Bowl. I mean, my God. I mean, that is thinking back what a TV broadcast would have been like then. Hello, Keith Jackson and Frank Boyles here, 25 and 25. Oh, my. I mean, it would have been just absolute melee trying to keep up with the players and who had the ball, Jimmy. That would have been crazy.
Well, you couldn't run with the ball. It was strictly a kicking game at that point. You could kick it, or you could punch it with your fist, or you could hit it with your head.
Or forming the flying wedge, and then the kicking team trying to get through all of his blockers to make a tackle and so forth. But you talked about the forward pass being added to the rules, and I know as a kid I was reading a book involving Newt Rodney, and tell me if this is correct or not, but by reading the book, it appeared that the official coming out party of the forward pass on a national scale occurred when Rodney was playing at Notre Dame. I believe, like Bear Bryant, he was an end, and
Right.
Gus Dorius was the quarterback.
Right.
And they broke out the forward pass in that game, and it totally broke the game open. Would it be safe that was that was
right.
really the
Right.
big
Yes.
coming out party for the forward pass?
Right. The forward pass began legal in 1906, and the first team to actually throw one was St. Louis University against a small college in Wisconsin. It was Carroll College. And that was the first time the forward pass was used in the game. But the rules were very restrictive. It was almost like an incomplete pass was a free ball at one point, and the coaches were very reluctant to use the forward pass. But in 1913, Notre Dame went and visited Army, and they beat Army utilizing the forward pass. It was Doré to Rockney, and that sort of woke everybody up to the fact that the forward pass was now a legitimate strategy, and it was an effective means of advancing the football. And so that sort of opened up everybody's eyes to the forward pass. Notre Dame didn't invent the forward pass, but they were one of the first to utilize it to an extent where it woke everybody up.
Hey, I got to ask you this one too about our friend Norman Chapmanson over in Birmingham. He and David Cruz produced a documentary late April called Sewanee 1899 Unrivaled. It's 2 hours, but it's modified to about 90 minutes. It's going to be on public TV throughout the South here pretty soon, about the 5 wins in 6 days, 327 points versus giving up a total of 10. The close game was in Montgomery. Auburn played them. It was 11-10. They called the game because of darkness, and John Heisman was the coach at Auburn. And there were, riot fights, pistols drawn. It was a crazy scene. And you think about Sewanee was a charter member of the SEC, and after 8 years of not winning a game, they got out. But that's the oldest field, like 130 years, isn't it, where they still play in the same location up there, up on the mountain. And as they say, Sewanee's right.
Well, yeah, it certainly wasn't. What's amazing to me is just the logistics of it all, and playing all of these games and getting from point A to point B, and having your hotel rooms and your meals provided for you, because this is all done. You couldn't email somebody or
send me a text.
Conversations were difficult as well, so you had to do all this by letter and set all this up to facilitate this travel that they had to do, and of course that's an amazing part, and the fact that the game was so much more physical, and they could play nearly every day in these games is just it's with hardly any substitutions at all it's almost unimaginable.
Well, it is.
And the win.
Yeah, it is. Listen, we've run out of time, and we got to get you back on. I don't think I've ever talked to anybody that had such a grasp of the history, but also can just put it out there in layman's terms, the vernacular, whatever. But these stories, there's just an endless number of them, and all this. When you go to the College Football Hall of Fame, you're there every day, but you can see it in living color when you walk around. Just like when Shane Beamer, South Carolina's coach, he got up there, and I mean, he was like me. I mean, he was just so excited. He said, this place is amazing. He goes, I just went upstairs and looked at the exhibit about my dad, Coach Frank Beamer, who built Virginia Tech into a national power. And wow, I'm down here talking to y'all. But that's incredible. I love what you do at the College Football Hall of Fame. And first off, thank you from all college football fans. People, do yourself a favor. It'll restore your faith in college football and everything. And look, we're going through. Look, it's always darkest before dawn, Kent. Everybody thinks the game's ruined. No, it's not. You just alluded to it. In the early 1900s, 19 deaths in one season, and we got through that. We'll get through this, but tell people how they can follow you and reach you and connect to the College Football Hall of Fame in Atlanta.
Well, reach me. Well, also you can go to our website, and I'm sure my email link is and my phone number is there if you want to speak to me or have any questions about college football. It used to be when I first did this job, my God, I would get. Here's the question I used to get the most answers question to. Who has the most national championships, Notre Dame or Alabama? And then I would tell them Yale, and there would be silence on the phone.
Harvard or Yale, one of them has like 26.
So you can contact me that way, and I'd be happy to speak with you and answer whatever questions you might have.
All right, here's what we're going to do. We got to get you back on in the next couple of weeks. We're going to have that question, and that's going to be because every school, can claim them. And I'm curious,
yes.
I know Auburn could claim 10, but they only claim 2. And then Alabama could probably claim 27, yet they only claim 18. But they still claim the one in 1941 when they were third in the SEC. So we're going to get you on. Kent, I got to tell you, this has been fantastic. And thank you so much for calling in with us. And tell Kimberly Bowden how much we appreciate everything she did for everybody in the SEC Media Days last week and everybody on that staff. They really made us feel really, really special down there. But thanks for being on with us.
Anytime, buddy.
Okay, you bet. Let's take a quick commercial break. We're going to be right back with Doug Dean down in the Magic City, Birmingham, AU Dose, talking more college football. Guys, hang on with that hold music through the break. We'll be right back.
Kitchens and bathrooms make a home, and the design teams at Kitchens Unlimited know how to make kitchens and baths. They know it all because they have seen it all. Kitchens Unlimited has been designing and remodeling the Mid-South's kitchens and baths for over 50 years. Check out their showroom at 3550 Summer Avenue or visit them on the web at kitchensunlimited.net.
If you have a crash, dent or ding, go to G.E. Patterson and BBG for Tom Martin's Body Shop.
Come on down to Hewlett & Dunn Boot and Clothing Company, located on Historical Square in Collierville, Tennessee. Hewlett & Dunn is the second largest Filson dealer in the Southeast, stocked with Southern brands you know and trust. And a new inventory arriving all the time. Do yourself or someone you know and love a favor and visit this store. Open Monday through Saturday, 10 a.m. to 5 p.m.
Red River Ford and Toyota, located in Wynne, Arkansas. If you're in the market for a new or used car, truck, or SUV, call, go online, or drop by and see them. Located 45 minutes from Memphis, go off the 4-city exit on I-40 and go north about 15 minutes on Highway 1. Easy to work with and still believe in customer service. If you live out of town, they will deliver your vehicle to you. RedRiverFordToyota.com. Just see what they can do.
As an agricultural producer, no matter where you farm, minimum tillage is a primary concern each and every season. At House Industries in Cherry Valley, Arkansas, we manufacture equipment to help you maximize efficiency when planting and watering a crop. Pieces like the pulverizer, bedder roller, 3-bar do-all, and bed conditioner assist you in optimizing seedbed preparation and ultimately your bottom line. Visit HouseIndustriesInc.com to locate the dealer nearest you.
House Industries, breaking ground.
Sidelines with Rob Brown. Talk sporty to me.
All right, Rob Brown back here with you. Second segment. That was great stuff with Kent Stevens, the historian for the College Football Hall of Fame in Atlanta. Bringing on another historian, a poet laureate per se, Doug Dean of the AU Dose down in Birmingham. Doug, hope you're feeling better. 2 weeks from tomorrow, be heading up to the Spring River to go catch some of those rainbow troutses. Might catch a brown trout, but pretty much rainbow. But that water, everybody get ready to cool off. Comes out of Mammoth Spring, Arkansas at 57 degrees. It feels really good.
All right, good morning, guys. Jimmy and Rob, Audrey. I greatly enjoyed. Hang on, sorry about that.
Yeah.
Sorry about that. These phone notifications, gotta love it. Yeah, I've had an opportunity since Sunday after hopping on my John Deere tractor, bush hogging fields Saturday and Sunday to improve the immune defense system with, what do the kids call it? The Rona.
Yeah.
The vid.
Yeah. Yeah.
Or if you prefer, the China virus.
Yeah.
And I'm no worse for the wear. I obviously don't want to make light of what has been a devastating health challenge for many people. What's crazy about it is just the complete unpredictability of how a particular human body will process it. But I haven't even had a fever, so all is well. And I sure am not going to call in on the disabled list for this great show over something like the common cold.
Well, we're all appreciative and want you to get better, but love having you on here and thank you.
You're most welcome. I'm counting the days to hang out in Mammoth Springs, Arkansas, and I was checking the map, looking ahead to the trip, which is so grateful for you, the invite, Rob. And we're not real far, a little more than a 9-iron shot from the stomping grounds of one Coach Sam Pittman. Maybe he can hand off practice drills to an assistant and come join us, Rob.
Well, that would be a lot of fun having Matt Dillon on the river with us, man. He's lost 60. Should have seen him at media days. He's lost 62 pounds.
Oh, Sam. Oh, he wants to not only be highly paid now, but be sexy, right?
Yeah, that's right. Hey, he is very popular in the natural state, man. But I got to tell you, I think he's going to be immersed in practice. They all kick off this coming Monday. They won't know one day from the next. It's a big blur all the way up to game one.
All right, so give me a minute here. I got the top of mind thoughts with the disclaimer or product warning label. If my state of mental and physical state causes me to not live up to my usual standard, at least to have an excuse. But if I cough at any point during this, I'm just going to attribute it to Pat Dye. We're getting close to the season, right? Remember Coach Dye's epic cough, which was supposedly exacerbated by stress. But I don't know if it sunk in. I know it did with both of you, but I'm not sure every listener that it sunk in what Kent Stevens just said, that this with NIL and the portal and everything else, super conferences being talked about, that he's ready as a historian. I'm not a casual message board jockey, but as a historian to call this a new era. And believe me, I'm not saying I disagree with him, but as you guys know, historians are always restrained about something as sweeping as proclaiming a new era, a big shift in history in which all the rules of the road change. And do you agree with me? That was more profound than it may have, hit the ears when he first said it.
Well, I think he's really referring to NIL and the portal. And I'll even go further and make a comparison. In estate planning, the tax laws are you have a unified tax credit, amount of money in an estate that is free from the estate tax. And then you have a stepped up cost basis. But, you're not going to get in 2010, the only year we didn't have an estate tax, that was the year George Steinbrenner died. So that estate passed completely with no estate taxes, I would assume, according to the rules. But you didn't get the step up in basis, which means if you inherited a stock, 1 million shares of a stock worth $100 a share, and the basis was $1, your tax that you paid on that was between $1 and $100. Well, but they didn't give you both. I don't see how we can have NIL and the portal both going forward. And I'll tell you what's going to happen. You're going to have enough of these deals blow up and bust, and these guys take all this money and leave after 1 year, like Quinn Ewers. That'll change the tune on people. But no, I don't think it's a new era. I think it's just a just a bump in the road we're going through. But the free market and natural selection will fix all this stuff. That's how I see it.
Maybe, but we rarely disagree, the three of us. I think I want to claim, because we're above average minds, the three of us, and I'm probably self-serving when I say that. But I lean. I just don't know. Is this a new era? What do you mean by new era? All that stuff. I tell you what, I lean toward it probably is a major enough shift that we're going to look back in 20 years, much less 50 years, and say, wow, that there were some breakthroughs that really helped. There were some blunders that were regrettable from the SCOTUS decision, and they were just following the law when it got put before them. Anyway, Mike Leach makes the point at the media days, quote, go up to your favorite NFL guy and say, hey, I heard in the NFL they're going to have unmitigated free agency, 365, 24/7. And by the way, there's not going to be any salary cap or draft. You're just going to have bidding wars, and watch the expression on their face. And so sometimes, I don't know about y'all, but I feel restrained in calling for doom and gloom, because it feels like I'm old guy yelling at cloud, On the other hand, I'd love y'all's thoughts. You have to imagine and ask the question of Greg Sankey, of John, I forgot his name, Hancock, the head of the playoff system.
Bill Hancock.
Thank you. All the thought leaders, and I'm not talking about, Herb Street. I'm talking about the real thought leaders of the conferences and so on, and even the historians. What would the line look like that you crossed, that it's gone too far? For example, if Fox and ESPN in 5 years say, we've got this pile of money and we want these college students to play a 16-game regular season. I mean, it's not that insane if you look at the NFL. And then, oh, by the way, there's a 12-team playoff. Is that too far?
Yeah.
Have we gone too far?
That's insanity. Look,
exactly, but it's not impossible to think about.
No, it's not. I mean, because look, the people that nobody on ESPN wants to give up that financial gravy train. You're going to do whatever they tell you to do, whatever they tell you to say. How many original thoughts are you hearing anymore? The original thoughts are coming in the podcast world and in the sports radio world. That's where they're coming from. People that have the backbone to say what they really believe. And I think the danger is that the money is so big, most people are just going to cave. And at some point, we're going to look around and say, do we really want college football, college sports to be like pro sports? I say, hell no. Keep them separate. They're two different entities. Yet the money is incredible. You look at football coaches. I mean, Kirby Smart's new deal, over $100 million. I don't know what the guarantee and the buyouts and all that stuff are, but at some point, an athletic director and a president are going to have to stand their ground and tell one of these coaches who makes up a story with his agent, which they do all the time, that other schools want them, and call their bluff and say, go. I'll tell you one that comes to mind is Goose Malzahn. Back December of 2017, the day after Auburn lost to Georgia in the SEC championship. If he was going to go to Arkansas, they should have said, look, we're going to give you a 4-year extension at $5 million a year. Take it or leave it, buddy. If you don't want that, then go. You can't keep paying people so much money that they lose sight of they still have to show up for work every day. Because unless he was fired with cause, Malzahn was guaranteed $32 million, 28, 24. He left with $21 million. And people say, well, Auburn's boosters paid that. That's still $21 million that could have gone to something else. So I think what's going to happen is the fans, look, in a lot of businesses, people are paid huge sums of money to leave for like a 5-year deal. And a year or two into it, if they want to quit or go somewhere else, they got to pay that money back. You wait until you have some of these NIL deals. And Quinn Ewers is the one that comes to mind, Jimmy. $1.4 million up there in Ohio. and he took 2 handoffs at the end of a 56-7 Ohio State beating of Michigan State. The same year last year that Mel Tucker got a $100 million 10-year contract. I mean, that it illustrates the insanity of this whole thing. So we'll work it out. I mean, we the fans will, and you know what? Maybe we pull away, and they're going to be, because right now Texas A&M, and we'll talk with Olin Buchanan about this. They're using they're using what's available, and as Jimmy says, it's the wild, wild west. Okay, and there are no restrictions on it. But I tell you what, one of my friends the other night made a great point. If the NCAA said, okay, before they let the Supreme Court take over and say, here are the limits on NIL. This is what you can spend. That's it. But they kicked the can down the road, and now it's just it's a feeding frenzy, like watching a bunch of great white sharks feed on a crippled whale. That's where we are. Anybody want to jump in? Jump into the water with the great white sharks.
No, I mean, I think that this is an era now that is here to stay. The train's left the station. I mean, I was surprised that last week how many of the head coaches were unified in talking about how they thought it was great for players being able to get paid. And because they knew that was a sensitive subject and they didn't want to go negative on it because it could cause them to lose players in the future.
Yeah, do they even really mean it, Jimmy?
I don't think they mean it. I think they hate it.
Well, I think they realize that over all these years that it's been a one-way street. Coaches could leave anytime they wanted to, and leaving players that they had recruited, and those players thought they were going to play for them, and they get left holding the bag, and it just created a really, really bad look. And I think the NCAA decided, hey, we're going to level the playing field a little bit, and came up with this ideal of NIL, and here we are, and we're a work in progress right now, 1 year in.
Yeah, and I will say everything you said I agree with. The only little footnote I would add is Kirby caught just a little bit of fire. Y'all probably read from some of the media, Shannon Sharp in particular. I thought it was a screed. It was a joke. But Kirby was trying to make what I thought was a very solid point. But he said that the problem with NIL, from Kirby's point of view, is that it's too front-loaded, if that's the right word. They're kids that are, when they come in, you're driving these 7-figure money to kids that hadn't played a down of college football, and NIL may not, proportionately reward the players who have proven it. Some, like at Georgia and Alabama, have won a national championship. Where's the NIL love for them? And it's just become it's not name, image, and likeness. It's pay for play in the recruiting wars. And so I thought Kirby was exactly on point about that. He wasn't really bashing players earning fair compensation. He was just saying the structure and architecture of it is bass backwards.
Well, and along that line of what he's saying, in the business world, you're 22 years old. You just graduated from, University of Georgia School of Business. And you go work for an investment banking firm. Let's say Goldman Sachs. Right? Are you going to start out making $6 million a year? No. You're going to get a salary, but you're going to work toward it, and you work your butt off, and a lot of things happen for you. Then you'll get the big money. So when are we going to have these? One of the biggest rackets out there is all these youth soccer teams. All the parents do is spend a fortune traveling and staying in hotels and going to St. Louis and Dallas and Nashville every weekend and Atlanta for these tournaments. And the coaches are making $150,000 a year for some of these soccer teams. How much are these middle school kids making? Are they going to start wanting NIL money? I mean, this is, look, don't forget that the universities, I mean, this narrative that they're making all this money off student athletes, yeah, but they're investing billions of dollars for the benefit of these student athletes. You want to start, what we need to do is get a controller of a university or two on here to do the numbers, what they spend on these kids, and this stuff of, they're taking advantage of. I mean, my goodness, if you go to a school, University of Arkansas, Georgia, Memphis, wherever, you work hard, you go to class, you stay out of trouble like any normal student, you're going to have opportunities of a lifetime. Go into sales. People will call you up and buy insurance from you just because they want to talk to a star, or even if you were a scout team guy, you're going to get opportunities other people will never get. I mean, I'm not saying, but most people won't. So yeah, I think that bottom line is Kirby Smart's right. You got to do something to get the money. What you did in high school, I mean, so what? Now what?
Sure, and a lot of those left-leaning critics, in that opinion about college, big athletic, Power Five, the big boy athletic programs, what they don't seem to understand about how the money flows through the books is it's really, if we're honest, it's all about college football as the revenue producer.
Yeah.
A little bit basketball, but I mean a little bit in the scheme of things. And out of that major base of revenue, and in no small part due to Title IX, and in some cases, props to the colleges that in the South or anywhere that had long since valued female sports, other non-revenue sports, but you take that revenue and they work hard every year to try to give allocations to the non-revenue sports, and it adds up to a lot of young people being able to compete and perform in athletics and get at least partial scholarship support to get an education. And I think that when you consider the big shift with, there's actual discussion of the threat of a football players union. It started with Penn State. Now they're saying it's more, they're just looking at an association to represent their thinking. But the end game, some believe, would be to try to lobby for revenue sharing. I don't think that'll get to second base because it just wouldn't work. I think the college football powers on one side of the table would say, oh, you want that? Okay. Sorry, you can quit the team. Next man up. And so that was Greg McElroy's opinion this week in Birmingham. But I agree with him that things can shift, but that would be another earth plate shifting that comes about right when you're trying to stabilize all of this. You're waiting to see if the next Congress would have the foresight and backbone to issue legislation that would bring some competitive balance and some sanity to what we've got right now. And it's just, I don't remember a time where there were more unknowns about how it might all play out.
Well, Jimmy, and I didn't hear Greg McElroy's comments, what he said, but you have a players union be a disaster. Okay. And I'll tell you right now, what makes college special is you're running back on 4th and 2 when you got to have it. He's going to run through that line and put his body on the line. The guy that's making a lot of money, it's 4th and 2, 4th and 3. Who's to say he's not going to pull up short because he don't want to get hit and go out of bounds? I mean, that's what makes college, the love of that jersey and the laundry in your school and the connection the fans have, that they care as much as I care or more. You start paying them a lot of money. You wait. We started this crap with this opt-out BS, which is a euphemism for I quit. I don't want to hear all these excuses. You know what? Hey, Doug, fans could get hurt driving to the game. You could walk off a curb and roll your ankle walking to a stadium. Okay, let's just call all these people out for who they are.
Yeah.
Okay. I mean, and I'm glad Greg McElroy said that. That reaffirms my faith. Good
for
him.
Well, just clarify what McElroy's his basic point was, which I agree with, and I think was astute, that the players simply wouldn't have any leverage to get to the collective bargaining, to get to the table. You got to have leverage, and they just don't have any of it. The stud quarterback says, "I'm going on strike. I'm not going to play this season if you don't revenue share." The powers that be say, well, we hate that, but the best of luck to you. Next man up. And
exactly.
I think that leverage would die quickly.
Yeah, I absolutely agree with that. Next man up. Look, find me people You know what? You think about it. You remember when Pat Tillman left the Arizona Cardinals to join the Army? He went to Fort Benning for basic, to Sand Hill Reception Station, joined the 3rd Ranger Battalion, went over to Afghanistan, unfortunately was killed by friendly fire. He was making less than $19,000 a year. Okay? Less than $19,000 a year. Who do you have more respect for? Pat Tillman or some kid that's 17 getting an $8 million deal who hadn't stepped foot on a college campus and done a damn thing? And he's come on. There's no comparison.
Yep.
You know, I got more respect for a Marine that I see, walking through an airport that's 18, 19 years old, uniform's perfect, has more pride than these just 2-bit wannabes. A lot of them are. Go out and prove yourself and do something. Yeah, I'm all for it. I'm a capitalist, man. But I'm just saying, throwing money, what it says is how pitiful your athletic program is that you have to pay somebody $8 million or $10 million out of high school. I mean, my God, what's a full 25-player recruiting class going to cost you? $250 million? I mean, we better be careful. That's why I'm saying the free market will fix this. People will say, you know what? That was a fad, kind of like the pet rock or something. Yeah. I mean, people will not. Jimmy and Doug, I can't imagine a booster that's worth a lot of money. And now there are some that just throw the money at these guys, but I don't see them doing it long term because the return on investment, it ain't gonna be there. And the fans also, if you lose that connection between the fans, that's when you're gonna lose college football, Jimmy.
Well, I think it's just one of these situations where we're just living and learning, because we originally thought that NIL was going to be used as a purpose to retain your best players and reward those guys for showing they're a significant part of your success. But now, in the last 2 or 3 months, we're learning that's become a huge recruiting tool, and that was not the original intent by the powers that be that wrote the rule up. So we've got to solve that issue and decide how that's going to be handled, because again, the $8 million guy, the youngster from California, that's where this really started to explode. And you had opinions from everywhere on how to handle this.
Yeah.
I mean, we remember last year when Saban addressed his team on the first day of a preseason camp. He said, this is not going to be a lot different from the NFL, where certain guys are going to get the lion's share of these NIL deals, and the other guys have to accept it. But it's a lot harder to do that when you're at a young age, because so many of these players on these heavyweight programs were stars, and they've been pampered all their life, and they've been told how great they are, but yet they're not going to get an NIL, but those skill position players are. So you just have to let this thing progress and let the powers that be come up with a way to figure this out.
Yeah, and look,
but last week we had a very interesting development. Oh, go ahead.
No. I'm just saying. Go ahead, Jimmy.
No, Texas Tech, one of their prominent alumnus, came out and said that for this 2022 season, that every scholarship player at Texas Tech, 85 football players plus 20 walk-ons, will be paid $25,000 this year for this season. And they had calculated it among their various collectives of alumni groups. And they not only surmised that it was affordable, but they plan on expanding it to Olympic sports in the future. So just be looking for a lot of different scenarios to come up, and we're going to have some decisions to be made on how to regulate it.
The Red Raiders with the socialist model of NIL.
Yeah. Hey, let me throw this one at y'all before we're about out of time. We're going to have to go to a break. But Doug and Jimmy and everybody listening, how about the regular students start checking into the size of the endowment at whatever university they're enrolled in and say, look, man, I'm walking to class every day. I'm going up those stairs, man. I want a piece of that endowment. You got $5 billion endowment. Texas, you got 14 billion. Yeah, I want some of that. Hey, I hope that I hope that happens.
Chemistry classes are hard, Rob.
Yeah, I can tell you one thing. I've been in the commission business in my whole career, 31 years. I'm going to tell you something right now. There is no tenure in the bond business. There is no tenure anywhere except in higher education. You get tenure. Are you kidding me? Let's start attacking that. Okay, let's start going after. Yeah.
Yeah, I'm sorry. You baited me into quoting the great Coach Paul Bryant. Well, when that chemistry teacher starts drawing $100,000 to their class, then get back to me about money.
Yeah. Well, look, I had plenty of professors that I respect. They don't need tenure. If you're good enough, you don't need tenure. You shouldn't be locked into a 30-month contract just to talk on a phone. If somebody's good enough, they ought to say, hey, we don't have any contracts. We're going to do such a great job taking care of you. You're not going to want to leave us. But that's where we're going, folks. The regular students. How about the pre-med student going, well, look, I'm going to be a great neurosurgeon. I want $8 million right now, and I'm a freshman, and, I got a face like a pepperoni pizza, but I want $8 million because I think I'm going to be a great doctor. You think Johns Hopkins or the Mayo Clinic is going to front that guy $8 million on NIL? I mean, look, the NCAA is gutless and they're leaderless. They've got some things they get right, but they didn't get this right. They should have put some restrictions, as Jim said Sunday night, made a good point. Put restrictions on what it is and say, you want to do it? Here's the restrictions. That's where we're going to go. And I'll tell you right now, you get a team full of guys that are all there just for the money. Good luck coaching those guys. Good luck trying to form unity in the locker room. I can't wait to see the 10 and 20 and 30-year reunions of the NIL crowds. That's why I'm saying the free market's going to fix this stuff. Folks, I've seen this before, man, in different kinds of business. Go back 30 years ago. REM. What happened to REM, the band? They got an $80 million advance in the late 80s. What happened to the band after that? They fell apart. Now you might get a $500,000 advance or $250,000. That comes from somebody I know in the music business. I'm not saying I'm an expert on that stuff, but they realized paying all that money to them. Even Warren Buffett, when asked, how much money are you going to leave to your kids? I'm going to leave them some money, but I'm not going to leave them so much money they won't get out of bed in the morning and try. See, listen to that guy. I mean, I don't agree with him on everything, but he's right about that. The first generation employs, the second enjoys, and the third destroys about 95% of the time. You get a kid that you give him a pile of money like this when he's 17, $8 million. That's like some kid that's, from a wealthy family that's never had a job in his life. All of a sudden he's 25, 30 years old and he's got a couple of kids and he's never worked. He was born on home plate and thinks he hit a grand slam. Good luck to you, pal. Doug.
There you go.
Doug, I'll tell you what, man. I mean, we're not the grumpy old men. Get off of my lawn. I mean, we're
yelling at the clouds.
Yeah.
Hey, Rob, can I stick around and put just one very benign question to Rodney Orr?
Yeah. Hold on. Let's do this. Let's take a quick break. We're going to be right back with more on Sidelines in hour number 2. And guys, I'm gonna reboot. So I'll let y'all off and I'll call you right back for hour number 2 on Sidelines Tuesday morning, July 26, 2022.
Kitchens and bathrooms make a home, and the design teams at Kitchens Unlimited know how to make kitchens and baths. They know it all because they have seen it all. Kitchens Unlimited has been designing and remodeling the Mid-South's kitchens and baths for over 50 years. Check out their showroom at 3550 Summer Avenue or visit them on the web at kitchensunlimited.net.
If you have a crash, dent or ding, go to G.E. Patterson and BB for Tom Martin's Body Shop.
Come on down to Hewlett & Dunn Boot and Clothing Company, located on Historical Square in Collierville, Tennessee. Hewlett & Dunn is the second largest Filson dealer in the Southeast, stocked with Southern brands you know and trust. And a new inventory arriving all the time. Do yourself or someone you know and love a favor and visit this store. Open Monday through Saturday, 10 a.m. to 5 p.m.
Red River Ford and Toyota, located in Wynne, Arkansas. If you're in the market for a new or used car, truck, or SUV, call, go online, or drop by and see them. Located 45 minutes from Memphis, go off the 4-city exit on I-40 and go north about 15 minutes on Highway 1. Easy to work with and still believe in customer service. If you live out of town, they will deliver your vehicle to you. RedRiverFordToyota.com. Just see what they can do.
As an agricultural producer, no matter where you farm, minimum tillage is a primary concern each and every season. At House Industries in Cherry Valley, Arkansas, we manufacture equipment to help you maximize efficiency when planting and watering a crop. Pieces like the pulverizer, bedder roller, 3-bar do-all, and bed conditioner assist you in optimizing seedbed preparation and ultimately your bottom line. Visit HouseIndustriesInc.com to locate the dealer nearest you.
House Industries, breaking ground.
Sidelines with Rob Brown. Talk sporty to me.
All right, Rob Brown back here with you. Hour number 2 on Sidelines on this Tuesday morning. Doug Dean, AU Dose in Birmingham. Jimmy Hodge out there in Lake Zurich. And now Rodney Orr in Tuscaloosa, Tighter Insider. And Rodney, Doug Dean has a question for you. And we've been having a really wild conversation in the first hour, college football history. Got into a little bit about, the pay for play thing going on. But hey, it just keeps coming up. We're going to talk some football, but go ahead, Doug.
Well, first of all, Rodney, I want to compliment the fine work you do, and my good Bama friends in Birmingham and surrounding area are faithful subscribers to you because you're that good at not just recruiting, but all things Bama and Southeastern Conference. My question, and I'll get out of the way so you guys can interview Rodney. You were probably going to talk about it anyway, Rodney, but I'm fascinated by not just the commitment of this kid originally from Finland, Olas Alinen. I think I'm pronouncing that right. 6'6", 315 O-lineman. I think number 122 player in the country, depending on the service you're looking at. And my curiosity is no surprise when Alabama gets a commitment from a big time player. They've established that brand, and even in the face of NIL, I think Miami was in on this kid with big NIL money, but he thought big picture about development and getting ready to play in the league if he can. So what goes into the intel when a kid is that far away? And I think he's played 1 year of high school in Connecticut. But how does Alabama? How do you get the intel to know, is this a 4-star that really is ready for SEC play versus Or is it distorted by hype? If you can comment on that, Rodney.
First of all, I appreciate your kind words. And, if you're asking me how did they come to the evaluation that he's a prospect, is given the fact that he was over in Finland. Is that what you're asking?
Yeah, or just even when he got here, when Alabama expanded their zip codes in recruiting to be so far flung, not just the deep South, does that present challenges with the scouting and evaluations?
Well, I think again, the way it is nowadays, they can cover more ground a lot more easily. I think you have to be able to recruit nationwide, especially when you're in a state like Alabama. It's only going to produce a certain number of players, and obviously the southeastern region is very plentiful, but at the same time, it's also very competitive, as you know. Alabama's been extremely successful in Texas. Nick Saban has signed classes where he's had 16 or 17 different states represented, which is pretty amazing. You can think back to when you think back to the 90s and when Gene Stallings was here, they'd sign a class of 25 and 23 would be from the state of Alabama. So things have obviously changed dramatically. He's going after the best players in the country. And then, as far as OLAS is concerned, he came to Windsor, Connecticut at the Loomis School there, and certainly made a name for himself. I know that he participated in a lot of camps. Plus, his dad's a former pro player himself, played a little bit. So he was kind of recognized early as a guy that might be a prospect. I think when you look at him, he is a guy that has a lot of the tools, but he does need a lot of polishing up. Most of them do, but maybe him a little more, just simply because he's only played 1 year of high school football in the United States. But yeah, I think it was you mentioned a big picture kind of perspective that he has. And I think that was key in the recruitment. I think there's one thing that Alabama's doing right now, and that is that they've not changed their method or their style of recruiting. They're still going to recruit the same way and the same kind of kid. Maybe even do a little bit more, if you could say, be a little more conscientious or thorough in terms of what the mindset is of these kids because of this NIL. Because if you get, the wrong type of mentality in your program, it could be, it could really set you back. And so they're really being conscientious in how they sell this program. And to him, it was big. It was big picture, and it was getting. Here's the amazing thing, and I'll make this real short. Nick Saban, in a conversation with the Lennon shortly before, a few days before his commitment, for his decision, he was still undecided. And Nick Saban just walked him right into his answer. He asked him in terms of the questions. He gave him the questions, and he said, what's important to you? What is it that you want to be? What is it that you want to do? What is it you want to achieve? All of these things, don't make a decision based simply on, or don't let the deciding factor be some kind of monetary opportunity that you have right now, but look at the big picture, and he bought into it.
Yeah, now, one comment and I'm gone. I think the smart, when you're Alabama and your fans kind of relish, and why not, being number one ranked class in recruiting year in, year out most years, it may be smart to be careful to recruit the kids that are going to come in and have the work ethic, not just the NIL money.
Exactly. Yeah.
And that might mean you're a miserable second or third national class. I say tongue in cheek, Rodney.
Yeah.
But it'll pay dividends on the field. Good stuff. I'll get out of y'all's way, guys.
Thanks so much, Doug. Love having you on.
Thank you, Doug.
Great segment. And Rodney, along that line of what Doug's saying, that's where I'm seeing this going in the future. You're going to end up getting the team full of guys with their hands out that are coming on campus, and they're not concerned about your history and tradition, your facilities, the education. What are you going to do for me? Those kind of people, the takers, they don't last. There's two kinds of people you bring into your university, to your program, to your business, to your life. You've got takers and you got investors. Okay. You want the people that show up. And I say this to my kids every day. Great advice. What can I do to help? Show up and volunteer. That's who our Marine Corps and our military is. Most of our first responders, police and firemen, they're the people that will run to the fight, not from the fight. And I think your football roster that you're going to win with is going to be kids that really want to be at your school. In this case, Alabama, guys that are willing to work, do those extra things that it takes. You survey most people, Rodney and Jimmy, they want to be, I want to be great. Okay. What's your plan to be great? Well, what do you mean? You can talk about being great all day long. Get in line with all these other clowns. What are you going to do? Because, you got to have a plan and you got to execute that plan. And I think what's going to happen is you're going to see teams that are loaded up with guys that are NIL. Okay. Well, they're going to start spending money. They're going to start, missing a meal at the training table and going out and gaining weight. I mean, money at a young age like that is an intoxicant for the most part. That's why we've been doing this for thousands of years. You work your way up the ladder. You don't give an infant his trust fund. Most people wait till 21 or 25 or 30. And what we're doing right now is just dumping money in the crib of these 16, 17, 18-year-old kids. They're going to come to again, look at Nick Saban. Some kid with a big NIL deal, wait till one of them pops off and cusses him at a practice or something. Now, who do you think's going to win that battle, Rodney?
Well, again, I think with the way they're recruiting, as far as the NIL and the way Alabama's using it, most of these kids that they're recruiting are going to come in that are going to earn NIL, or that's just the key. They're going to earn it. It's not just Alabama. I'm just using Alabama as an example, but there's several schools that are doing it the right way. There's a handful that aren't, that are trying to build their program with some shortcuts using NIL, offering, a kid $850,000 to sign or $8 million to sign, whatever it is. I think the crazy thing is some of these kids, one of them's probably going to be making more than the Tennessee assistant coach who's coaching him. And that's not just Tennessee; it's other schools, Miami, the Texas A&M, the ones that have used it to pay players to come to their school. And I think ultimately that's going to show up. But hey, here's the thing though, Rob. I mean, most of the schools that are doing this are schools that have really struggled, the last several years trying to rebound, and they're taking a shortcut to try to get back to the stature they once had.
Well,
for most of them.
Yeah. And there's no easy way in life. You got to go out there and earn it. And again, I'm not against people making money. It's just the way you do it. And I think each university is they have their own culture, proprietary culture, Jimmy and Rodney. And I think that's how it'll work out. Like, let's get back. Let's talk some football. Let's talk about practice. Starts this coming Monday or Tuesday at Alabama. Biggest issues from last year, offensive line development. You had a great freshman offensive line class last year, and also replenishing the running back room. You had a bunch of injuries where you had one healthy impact scholarship running back available in the national championship game. Where's the improvement there? You've had all summer, the workouts and everything like that as you head into practice, because it's now is the time for these guys to show up.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. I mean, it's, Alabama, you look at the offensive tackles. We've talked about that. Tyler Steen, I think at left tackle, gets the first crack. They've got a lot of hope for him. 30-plus games as a starter at Vanderbilt. And then also, right tackle, J.C. Latham. And then the running back room, you talked about it. Jahmyr Gibbs may be the biggest addition in the transfer portal that there is. And then, Jace McClellan's recovered from his injury, or we think he is. We haven't gotten an update lately, but we really fully expect him to be back. So Trey Sanders had a great spring as well. Roy Dell Williams had still been recovering, but this is a running back room. Jamarian Miller's true freshman that went through spring and had a good spring. So, I mean, it was those are Alabama's, a couple of the spots. Also, receiver. I mean, you lost Jamison Williams, you lost John Mechie, you even lost Slade Bolden. There was a guy that had the experience, and so you got some new guys there. Jermaine Burton, that's a big pickup. Obviously, Tyler Harrell, another big transfer pickup. Got a lot of guys to choose from. Christian Leary, JoJo Earl in the slot. I think Aaron Anderson, the true freshman, is going to be a great player. Jacory Brooks will be back. He missed the spring. He had a big end to last year, as you guys know, with his season. Yeah. And then I think Kendrick Law is another one. So, and then on the defensive side, listen, they've got a lot of players, a lot of talent returning. It's just a matter to me of, who are the corners? How's the corner situation going to work out? You got Kool-Aid back. It started the championship game, Karee Jackson. So they've got to get that ironed out. Elias Ricks, hopefully he's healthier than he was in the spring at the corner. So if they can do that, then I think look at this Alabama team, and it's going to be real, should be a fun team to watch.
I think it's fair to say, Jimmy and Rodney, Alabama made more additions via the portal in the offseason than they did with incoming NIL deals. And all programs are different, but you make Jahmyr Gibbs out of Dalton, Georgia, played at Georgia Tech. Georgia Tech's loss is Alabama's gain, Jimmy. Well, Jimmy's not there. I don't know where he is, but I think that's the deal. You've got to think about who you've got on your roster. Jimmy, jump back in when you're on. But Jahmyr Gibbs in the spring game popped off that 75-yard touchdown run. And granted, it's a spring game. It's not a regular season game. But this guy's an impact player.
Yeah.
He's a really good player. And I think that you're going to see him have a heck of a year. And Alabama goes and gets this guy. And and again, they've got issues with on the roster in the running back room. Jimmy's back on with us. I don't know what happened, but Jimmy, we're talking about that running back room at Alabama, talking about the defense and all, and the offensive line improving. And the scary thing is, a lot of the talk we're hearing is about how good this Alabama defense is. And you got Dallas Turner Jr., you got Will Anderson Jr., and hearing Takeo Spikes talk about what Will Anderson does, he goes, he's such a great player at his 6'4" and 245 and his speed and all like that. But when he gets up to the line of scrimmage, his vision, he sees all the matchups. It's like watching a supercomputer work, and he sees opportunities. There may be 2 or 3 of them. Bam, they come to mind, and he's going to go in that spot and knock out the quarterback or make a play. That's why he is an elite player. He's a real student of the game, and his mind thinks as fast as his body does. Jimmy?
Yeah, and I think he just plays like he's got something to prove, even though, in the opinion of many, had he been eligible for the NFL draft this year, he would have been the first player taken. So he's never satisfied. He's always trying to get better. And Rodney, I think this is going to be a prevailing theme with this team this year, is that they are on a mission. They came so close to winning the national championship last year, despite the fact it wasn't a secret this team had a lot of flaws. And now they filled in a lot of those areas where people felt they were lacking and certainly needed improvement. And it just seems like from a mental and an attitude standpoint that you just can't put a price on how important that is for a team to be just extremely hungry and motivated, despite what expectations maybe the media and fans have. They themselves have this goal, and they just seemed really determined to accomplish it no matter what the obstacles are.
Well, that's the key, because I think right now this team, the danger for this team is to get caught up in the hype. And that's because everyone's saying this is a national championship team, all of these things. These Players know that. They hear that. But because of what happened at the end of last year, now, had they beaten Georgia, just to give this example to you, maybe that would be a little more difficult task to get the focus of where it needed to be, because everyone would be saying, okay, Bama's getting ready to repeat. You know, they weren't a great Bama team last year. They obviously handled Georgia pretty easily in the SEC championship game, and probably might have won it again had they not been depleted. But so all of a sudden they would be dealing with that hype, you know, how great this team was going to be. And I think right now there's still a lot of hype, but I think the focus that they have is something that will keep them dialed in, if that makes sense. I mean, I don't think that because of the focus that they have, they'll block out, as Nick Saban says, the external factors, because they're so dialed in on what their goals are and what they need to do to be successful and get themselves in a position to finish what they didn't finish last year.
Yeah, no doubt about it, Rodney. And you know, the thing about it is that, again, you hear this talk about, you know, Georgia. Can they repeat just by the fact that they won that particular game? They took advantage of the Alabama injuries at wide receiver, and they made big plays when they had to. And, you know, maybe that's a good thing that Alabama isn't the prime subject of discussion, because, you know, they lost that game. Let Georgia deal with all that and see what it's like to face all the scrutiny, and you hear things just from their own fan base. You know, when Stetson Bennett didn't have the greatest spring game in the world, so what? When it counts, this guy gets the job done. And yet we know Georgia fans like to worry about a lot of things. So, hey, let the dogs deal with all that, where the Tide can kind of operate under the radar and try to get better every day. And, of course, you know, Nick Saban and his coaching staff, you know, they're going to be preaching that message all year long. You know, you guys haven't won anything yet. I mean, we got there but couldn't get it done. And, hey, how good do you want to be? And I don't think they're going to have a hard job motivating this team. But, again, though, not only is it a positive, I think, when your superstars have this attitude, but it gets passed down to the younger players, which
Absolutely.
is really important, I think.
Yeah, it's always kind of been like that. They hand it from one team to the next, and that's what you want. And, you know, the thing that Georgia has working in their favor is they don't play anybody. Let's just be honest. I mean, they play in the East. They don't have a lot of competition. They're basically guaranteed Atlanta before the season ever starts, because the competition in the East is just not very strong. You know, maybe they get tested in that first game against Oregon. I doubt it, but it could happen. You know, but other than that, I don't know who they play right now as you look at the schedule, unless Auburn is can compete with them. I think that game's in Athens this year.
Yeah.
But other than that, I don't know that Georgia really in the East, they don't have any competition.
Yeah, they really don't. Rodney, look, about to have to take a break. This has been a great segment, and I like the way you're thinking, you know, about this deal about the culture, and you bring in kids that are willing to work, and then all that stuff will come. All I'm saying is you got to work for it, and we're on the same page on that. So, you get the kind of kids that buy into your culture. That's who you're going to win with. If they're there just for the check, and they don't really care, it'll show up. So that'll be fun. But let people know how they can follow you. I know y'all got the TV show tonight at 6:30. You and Gary Harris on WVUA channel 23 out of Tuscaloosa from the stadium.
Yeah, it's TiderInsider.com. It's only $48 a year. You can get instant access with your credit card, or if you prefer, there's an address there to send a check. Gives y'all our premium information, but also our All Sports Forum, which is that community of Alabama fans that we have. I mean, it's nonstop on TiderInsider.com.
Well, you know what? Talking college football and stuff year round, golly, it's a tough thing, isn't it? It's kind of like getting up every morning and going, life is great, man. I love it. Rodney, as always, thank you for taking time out of your morning to call us. I love having you on here, and we will talk to you here soon. Let's take a quick commercial break. We'll head over to the Square in Oxford. We'll talk with Yancey Porter, probably at the Beacon right now, eating an M16. That's a meat and 16 sides. But we'll be back after this.
Kitchens and bathrooms make a home, and the design teams at Kitchens Unlimited know how to make kitchens and baths. They know it all because they have seen it all. Kitchens Unlimited has been designing and remodeling the Mid-South's kitchens and baths for over 50 years. Check out their showroom at 3550 Summer Avenue or visit them on the web at kitchensunlimited.net.
If you have a crash, dent or ding, go to G.E. Patterson and BB for Tom Martin's Body Shop.
Come on down to Hewlett & Dunn Boot and Clothing Company, located on Historical Square in Collierville, Tennessee. Hewlett & Dunn is the second largest Filson dealer in the Southeast, stocked with Southern brands you know and trust. And a new inventory arriving all the time. Do yourself or someone you know and love a favor and visit this store. Open Monday through Saturday, 10 a.m. to 5 p.m.
Red River Ford and Toyota, located in Wynne, Arkansas. If you're in the market for a new or used car, truck, or SUV, call, go online, or drop by and see them. Located 45 minutes from Memphis, go off the 4-city exit on I-40 and go north about 15 minutes on Highway 1. Easy to work with and still believe in customer service. If you live out of town, they will deliver your vehicle to you. RedRiverFordToyota.com. Just see what they can do.
As an agricultural producer, no matter where you farm, minimum tillage is a primary concern each and every season. At House Industries in Cherry Valley, Arkansas, we manufacture equipment to help you maximize efficiency when planting and watering a crop. Pieces like the pulverizer, bedder roller, 3-bar do-all, and bed conditioner assist you in optimizing seedbed preparation and ultimately your bottom line. Visit HouseIndustriesInc.com to locate the dealer nearest you.
House Industries, breaking ground.
Sidelines with Rob Brown. Talk sporty to me.
All right, Rob Brown back here with you on this beautiful. It is an absolutely gorgeous Tuesday morning, July 25th, and we're talking college football. Golly, it's so tough to do. I mean, I always say somebody's got to do it, and let's head over to the Square. He's probably already been to the Beacon, like I said. Maybe he had him an M16 this morning, a meat and 16 sides. So Rodney Orr was on with us from Tighter and Cider. Now we go to Yancey Porter, one of the, I call him, Willie Morris was longtime the writer in residence at Ole Miss. He wrote the book, The Courting of Marcus Dupree. Yancey Porter is now our writer, our reporter in residence from Oxford. And Yancey, I'm sure right now it's about 98 degrees on the Square. Humidity is about 99%, heat index of 120. And as Junior Samples would say, SBR 549, woo, it's hot. Welcome to Sidelines, man. How are you?
How you doing, Rob?
Man, I'm doing great. I'm over here at one of our sponsors, Red River Ford Toyota in Wynne, Arkansas, live from the studios with direct internet. And we're live streaming now. We're going to get you on the camera, on the video next week. And we're going to have Jimmy on. We're going to start getting everybody on, having a big talk about. But we're talking college football. And, hey, we're less than a week away from the start of practice. You're starting to feel the energy, the synergy. I know at media days, Lane Kiffin, you know, I don't wear a tie. It's just the way it is. I love it. He's a rogue. He's a rebel, and he's a hell of a coach.
I think that is a good word, a rebel. That word does describe Lane. I think everybody's excited about practice starting here in a few days. Everybody in the SEC is anticipating practice to start, and really, you know, all eyes are focused on the QB battle at Ole Miss and middle linebacker battle. You know, who's going to step up there, middle linebacker, and that's really the two spots. And then I'd say third is wide receiver, who's going to merge there at receiver.
Yeah. Yancey, you had mentioned about the progress being made in recruiting on the defensive line, which it all starts up front. You got to have the big push up the middle with your defensive linemen. Your edge rushers have got to put pressure and contain the quarterback. And then offensive line, you got to be able to block. Still got to be able to run the ball. So let's talk about the defensive linemen. I mean, are there any Tim Bowens, kind of guys in there that good? How good? Who would you compare this defensive front of Ole Miss to in the Southeastern Conference this year?
Well, there's no Tim Bowens now. That's
I was messing with you. They don't come along.
those are rare.
Those don't come along. They're about as rare as Brock Kreitz out of Naperville, Illinois. My friend that played linebacker for the Rebels, and 3 different coaches in 5 years who gave me the great term for a cold beer. He said, well, up in Naperville, we call them road sodas.
Bowens and Norman Hand, that was one pair right there with Dotson on the outside and Cassius Beware on the other end.
Scary.
Those were fun days. The Red Death defense.
Yeah.
That's what it was called back there.
Man, I didn't know it was called the Red Death defense. That was Billy Dog Brewer.
Dunn.
Yeah. Okay.
Yep, with Joe Lee Dunn. He was an amazing defensive coordinator, passed away a few years ago, but a wonderful person. I think defensively there, really on the team, I would say defensive line is the strength of the team, followed by offensive line. So, I mean, the good news for Ole Miss is that it always starts with the line of scrimmage, the guys that you have a hard time fitting through the door, so to speak. They're really, really solid there with a lot of depth, a lot of quality depth there on both sides of the line of scrimmage. But the defensive line probably has the most depth. They need someone to step up and become, really, really solid to elite. And that's kind of what you're hoping to see from a few of those guys. Who's going to do that? We don't know yet. But there's certainly a lot of candidates there on the D-line.
Yeah. Jimmy, jump in here.
Well, when I'm looking at this schedule, Yancey, it really looks like the Rebels have a great chance to come out of the gate really strong, be 4-0 with Kentucky coming to town. And the thing that's really favorable about that is, anytime you have a large number of new players coming into your program, it gives them a chance to, adjust to football at this level, but at the same time, have a great chance for success in game situations against teams that you should beat.
Yeah, as we've been talking about, Jimmy, since the schedule came out end of last season, it really does set up well for a program where you lose so much right now. You got to look at Ole Miss's roster. They have 39 transfers and junior college players on their roster. I don't know if I've seen that since maybe the Billy Brewer days when they used to recruit JUCOs so heavily. It is a roster full of transfers, and it's, getting that cohesive beat all in one together is going to be the goal. This two-a-days, or as it used to be called two-a-days, now the NCAA outlawed two-a-days. With this heat, I could see why. Again, I think really just kind of focusing on who is going to win that quarterback battle, who is going to merge their middle linebacker, and having a wide receiver or two really step up outside of Jonathan Mingo is really, who everybody's kind of setting their eyes on for these practices coming up, who's going to merge there. Everything else is kind of set from spring practices. The players that emerged there at the other positions, from running back to tight end. Obviously, the line of scrimmage that we just went over is deep in experience, and the secondary as well. So that's really kind of the battles that are taking place there. Quarterback there, wide receiver, with so many transfers in there. You got transfer from Louisville, Watkins transfer from State, from Malik Heath, a transfer from USC. Central Florida and Williams. So there's a lot of transfers there at receiver. It seems like there's transfers at all these positions, though, right? I mean, that's kind of the name of the game for college football now, is the portal and how many transfers are coming in from each program. And I don't know if y'all know, but there's a vote now coming in, which is absolutely ridiculous. That would a proposal allowing players to transfer unlimited amount of time and not just once in their career without having to sit out. And if that happens, my goodness, I don't know what college football would look like.
Well, I think that's what's going to be the death of NIL, because people are going to go, wait a second. You mean I could pay this kid $1 million or $2 million and he could walk after one semester? So thank you for doing that, NCAA, because the NCAA basically, if you look at them from a leadership standpoint, they've played kick the can for too long, and it's catching up with them.
Well, I think the NCAA just wants total chaos. So everybody, it almost ruins the game. So everybody says, okay, we need some order. NCAA, we're going to give you the power now to get back to be able to enforce infractions, get back to be able to, just get things straight again. I think it's kind of an inside ploy by the NCAA. I think they want this thing total chaos and allow them to get some power back on their side, which they've totally lost control of the power. So I think it's a ploy by the NCAA. I really do.
Well, Yancey, is it actually the NCAA that's doing this because, or they've made this proposal because, they made a big point, last fall to say, hey, this is going to be up to the Power 5 conferences on how to deal with this, because we're out of the investigations business because we don't have the manpower to do it. And the only investigations we're going to make rulings on are the ones that we've been working on for the last 3 or 4 years. But after that, it's up to you guys. So I was just wondering if this is a collection of Power 5 conference administrators, commissioners, and maybe group of retired coaches that are mulling these different ideas.
Well, Jimmy, I was looking for the list of the administrators and coaches who were behind this move to allow unlimited amount of transfers, and I haven't seen the list yet, but that doesn't sound like a Power 5 move to me that is behind this proposal, because certainly I couldn't imagine coaches from the Power 5 schools that would want to totally reshape, revamp their rosters every single year. Obviously I think the smaller schools would benefit from chaos like this if you could transfer every single year, because players would be leaving every year that they weren't the starter. And obviously you would have to start eventually going to schools that you could play. So I don't know. It doesn't sound like a Power 5 move to me, but I could be wrong about that. Maybe you have information on that side.
Yeah, Jimmy, you holding out on us?
No, but
who you been talking to?
When I'm like Yancey, I saw that proposal, an article or a column where somebody had mentioned it, and I'm going, this is just absolutely bizarre. I mean, this might as well just be the NFL. If somebody has a bad game for LSU in a particular week, they can just put the guy on waivers, and anybody else in college football can make a run at it.
Let me tell you what, that Yancey, that's what I just said, is that I think there's somebody smart did this, because it'll kill the NIL. Because wait till you have a kid that takes a big check, cashes it, and has that money, and he walks on you. Let me tell you something. You try doing that in the real world, you're going to be in the, oh my goodness. The decorum prohibits.
It could work the other way, though. It could build the NIL value for a player if he's doing well and he says, hey, you're only going to give me this. School X over here is going to give me this. I'm transferring over here.
We've already got that, though.
But that's one time. And that player could literally transfer 4 different times in his career and keep going to the highest bidder each year. At least the NFL has structure where you sign a contract and you are obliged to that program or that team for X amount of years.
Yeah.
So if the NFL was like that, where a player could leave every single year and go wherever he wanted, there would be no NFL. It would be out of business.
Well,
and if something like that happens, you're going to see attendance. You think attendance has been dropping over these last few years? Wait till you see that. It will totally. College baseball might become the biggest sport in college athletics if that happens.
Yancey, that's what I've been saying is that the free market will fix this. And again, it works both ways. You're saying, well, you're only giving me this much. I want even more. And look, let me tell you something, man. That's the difference with youth and ignorance versus age and wisdom. Okay? We know how the real world works. And if you're smart, you'll educate your kids, but you can't in business, you can't just be moving from firm to firm every week or every month. Your clients, you won't have any. Okay? People like stability. And so we've already got that in college. I mean, we had it to where if you wanted to transfer out of the conference, you had to sit a year. If you wanted to transfer within the conference, unless the coach signed off on it, you had to sit 2 years. Those rules were put there for a reason. That's how we built teams over the years. And so, look, right now, anything goes, but be careful what you ask for, because the people with a lot of money, there's some of them are just throwing it away. I mean, giving every player on the roster $25,000 at Texas Tech, that's stupid. I mean, one of their alumni, hey, it's a free country. It still is a free country. You can do whatever you want with your money, but look, let's get back on this Ole Miss roster. Last year, when we talked about Ole Miss in the preseason, we felt if Ole Miss could improve by 40% on defense, they'd win 9 or 10 games. They did. You got, DJ Durkin's gone. Chance Campbell's gone. He's probably in medical school, or he'll be a doctor one day. You're bringing in a new defensive coordinator. Durkin's at Texas A&M. And Texas A&M, by the way, tremendous pressure. I mean, say what you want. Well, these first 4 years under Jimbo Fisher, he's a very good coach. But the first 4 years under Kevin Sumlin were both 34-14. Sumlin had more wins over top 5, top 10 teams at home and on the road than Jimbo does. And now you bring in this highest rated recruiting class ever. There's going to be pressure. And you keep talking about the guaranteed $95 million contract and all. I mean, the people spending this money, they're going to demand a return on investment. We'll see what happens there. But let's look at Zachary Evans out of Houston, I think North Shore High School. I remember talking to a guy down in College Station about him. And he said, well, I've watched the kid play, heck of a talent. But with the way he is, remember he signed with Georgia for a few hours. Then he got out of that. And, he said, you don't want to be the first school to sign Zach Evans. You want to be the school he transfers to. Well, he went to TCU, was the first 5-star ever signed by TCU out in Fort Worth. First ever 5-star. Now he's at Ole Miss. And, Ole Miss has had some pretty damn good running backs the last few years. Good offensive line, better than Ezra, I can tell you that. But let's talk about how important he is. Here's an interesting stat. What's the magic number? You got to be able to run for 140, 150 yards at a minimum in the SEC to be a consistent winner. And the running back's still important. And when you're trying to hold a team and choke them from coming back on you, you run the ball in the fourth quarter and eat up clock and wear them down. That's the guy. I'm not saying Snoop Connor wasn't good and Jerrion Ely wasn't good and Parrish weren't good. I mean, Ole Miss has had some big-time back. But this guy, Zach Evans, is he better? Is he demonstrably better than any of those guys I just mentioned? Because we still hadn't seen him play an SEC schedule.
Yeah, I mean, that's hard to say. Look, he's averaged 8.2 yards a carry in his first 2 years at TCU. So, TCU's not playing against chopped liver over there in the Big 12.
Yeah.
Oklahoma and Texas are still over there in that conference, right?
Correct.
So, I mean, when you look at stat-wise, yes, he is. Snoop, and I think he averaged about 6 yards a carry. Ely about 5.2, I believe, during his career. So, yes, stats wise, he on paper he does look it. Now I know quietly inside the camp they're expecting him to be a first rounder this year. That's how high they have expectations for Zach Evans. He's a guy. He's a big guy that can shake. Right, he can make a miss in the open field and he can go the distance. They are really deep there at running back, but you look at them all, and they're really unproven at Ole Miss. Bentley there at SMU was, the top running back in that conference. Now he's more of an Ely type, where he can go 80 in a bat of an eye. Tremendous speed, tremendous shake. He cut on a dime. A really good kind of, package the difference between what we saw Ely and Snoop last year. And then Quinshawn Judkins, a guy out of Alabama that's a freshman this year that really he was able to enroll in December, went through spring practice, and 220-pound guy that is a bulldozer. And so they've got a little bit of a different package all in that running back room. They got different styles of running, and they're going to lean on that. When you're bringing in a new quarterback and you're really strong defensively and really strong on the offensive line, you're going to run the ball. And we know that Ole Miss ran the ball effectively the last 2 years. They led the SEC in rushing the last couple of years. Everybody looks at Ole Miss's offense and always thinks pass, pass, pass. But if you look at Lane Kiffin, he loves to run the ball too. So I look for them to really lean on that running game the first half of the schedule till they really find out who's going to be their quarterback and kind of get in the groove with the receivers and open up that passing game. But yes, Zach Evans is going to be a huge part of that. But I think, I don't look for Zach to be a 25 to 30 rush type running back. Could he be? Certainly he could be. But I think they're going to keep everybody fresh. And I think he's going to be more of that 15 to 20 type rush per game running back with all these other running backs that are in that backfield.
Yeah, I mean, he appears to be, what Ole Miss has been trying to get in there. But, what's the most carries ever by an SEC running back? I think Trey Mason, 47 carries, or Herschel, 47 carries in a game, maybe against Florida in 1981 for 192 yards. I think I'm correct. And then Mason had 46 carries for 304 yards in the SEC championship game when Auburn won 59-42 in 2013. But those kind of guys, you don't see that many of them anymore. It's more of a by committee. And I go back to the high water mark, the Waterloo moment for running backs. Trent Richardson out of Pensacola, Escambia County High School, great running back, 09, 10, and 11 at Alabama. Number 4 pick in the draft by the Indianapolis Colts. And after that, you're just not seeing running backs, being a value. It's all about the wide receivers. And you don't see running backs that act like Antonio Brown, who, by the way, should be in the nervous hospital. Because when you act the way he does on the field, I mean, the guy he doesn't need to be drinking coffee. I can tell you that. Coffee makes me nervous. Mm-hmm. All right, then. That's what Carl said. But Jimmy, jump back in this conversation. Yancey, you're making so many great points. And I'll tell you what, with Lane Kiffin, his genius is creating mismatches. But
yeah, Lane Kiffin's side of the ball obviously is offense. He loves working with quarterbacks. I just wanted to get your opinion on when you think he might make a decision on who's going to start against Troy, or do you think he'll obviously have to name a starter, but I mean, I'm talking about a starter that he feels confident is going to be the guy for the entire season unless injuries take place, or if he's just going to wait over the first 2 or 3 games until it's clear to him who the guy is at quarterback and go that route.
Yeah, look back at Lane's career, through his track of career at Tennessee and Southern Cal and Alabama and FAU and the other programs. And he's only had 1 year in his career where he went into the season without one solid starter there at quarterback. So if history repeats itself, I don't think Lane's really big in going into the season with the mystery of who the quarterback's going to be and rotating during the games at the beginning of the season. He likes to have his guy. So, I think that's enough of a trend for me to believe that once you get about a week before the season starts, possibly even 2 weeks, I think he's going to name that guy, and I think he's going to roll with him.
Well, it appears right now that from what we saw in the spring, Altmaier has a pretty good edge as we speak. And I can't get out of my mind last year in Knoxville when Corral had to miss a series and Altmaier just came right in. I think he completed 3 passes in a row. He didn't look like he was overwhelmed by the atmosphere or anything like that. And is there any kind of maybe inside thought among people in the building there if Altmaier is going to keep that advantage that he's earned, or is this going to be a battle to right up to opening day?
Well, there's no doubt that there's no doubt in my mind that Luke earned the right to be the starter coming out of spring practice. It wasn't only the Sugar Bowl appearance where he really, I thought, looked great against an unbelievable, maybe the most underranked or undervalued defense in the country last year with Baylor there. Spectacular defense with a tremendous defensive line. Really had a player at each level on defense there on the line, linebacker, secondary, that were elite players there. So under that kind of pressure, I believe there were 9 sacks, maybe 10 sacks that Baylor had on Ole Miss. They just ate Ole Miss lunch there at the line of scrimmage when both their offensive tackles went out in the first series against Baylor, and that was it. They just completely dominated the line of scrimmage there in the Sugar Bowl. So under that kind of duress, I mean, Luke really played as well as you could possibly play, considering he had only had 4 or 5 pass attempts all season going into that event. So Luke had played really well in the spring. Dart was all over the place. He threw picks every practice. He threw picks in the spring game. But having said that, Dart has that, that gunslinger mentality that Lane covets. That Matt Corral, that moxie, that, run you over, try to fit a ball in any kind of window. So he has that personality that Lane loves, right? But he's going to have to be able to cut down on the turnovers.
Yeah.
And really understand the offense. And that's what it's going to come down to. If Dart can really learn that offense and tone it down just a little bit, I think he has more of what Lane is looking for. But I think Luke, unquestionably, right now is the guy. And I think Luke could be a hell of a starting quarterback for just about anybody in the country. It just depends on what Lane is looking for.
Yeah. Hey, listen, Yancey, great stuff as always. Y'all check out 6 p.m. Central Monday nights, the Rebel Yell Hotline. Yancey, great insight. And we'll talk to you again in a few days. And great show, everybody. Really enjoyed this conversation the last 2 hours. It goes by in a flash. Check us out, 680thefan.com, the podcast part. Go out and help somebody with the expectation of getting nothing in return. Just give. Don't remind them about it. Don't hold it over them. If you help somebody, help them and just walk away. You'll be rewarded for it. Most often we see the face of Christ in the least among us. As Yancey always says, he's right. Not just folks down in Mississippi, but all over the country. Have a blessed day. We're blessed to have our listeners and our sponsors. We're out of here. We'll see you tomorrow. Good day.